I'm delighted to say David Meyler is with us to look back at the weekend's football and ahead tonight as well. David, good morning to you. How are you getting on?
Good morning, gents.
I think we should start with the relegation battle, because what looked like was going to be fairly pedestrian has exploded into life over the last few weeks. Burnley sacked Sean Dyche and we all thought, well, that's a panic move, and they've won their last 3 games and they've looked pretty good. It looked for a while like Everton were just going to go out with a whimper, and all of a sudden there's life in the old dog yet. Leeds, who looked safe 4 or 5 weeks ago, are crashing to earth really quickly. So there's a world now where it looks like both Burnley and Everton might survive.
It does. Obviously, Burnley winning and then Everton playing Chelsea. I did watch Chelsea against United, and I thought they lacked that clinical edge, and you saw Tuchel talking about it after, saying, they got into great areas, a decisive pass, whatever. And it's very difficult to criticise Chelsea because they won the Champions League last year, but you knew that they needed that number 9 to, put the ball in the back of the net. They signed Lukaku. That's been one of the worst signings in Premier League history. And even when they went to, Everton, of course, Everton now are going to get, they have to rally behind the group. But Chelsea just kind of look flat. They're in no man's land. They've kind of nailed down third. Yes, they've got the FA Cup final to play against Liverpool, but it was kind of one of those. Everton just had to take the fight to them. You've seen with the scenes outside the ground, with the fans kind of making it this incredible atmosphere. The whole stadium was bouncing, and the players responded to that, and it was a hell of a performance. And their home form has been all right all season, and that's what's inevitably going to keep them up if they are going to stay up. They have to get points at Goodison Park, and they've got some winnable games there, and I think they've got Watford away as well. So like Leeds are under serious pressure. Burnley, like you said, have won some games, so it is tightening up. I know Everton have the game in hand. If they could get 3 points in that, it just Leeds are the one that's on the descent. They're on the way down, and they could get caught out.
It's almost impossible to stop one of those runs at this stage of a season when you're in it. Like, we've seen great escapes in the past. Yeah, Villa, when they had Grealish, like, they went on a run like Burnley are on at the moment, and it's more easy to maintain one of those crazy runs than it is to actually arrest the pattern that Leeds are in at the moment. Is that fair?
Yes and no, because there's a reason why you are down the bottom of the table. You've not been able to win games. So albeit Burnley have you'd say turned the corner with the wins that they've had. Everton obviously winning. Both teams are very capable of going out and not performing again. Of course, I know they're fighting for their lives. I've been in similar situations where you do get a result and you kind of think, okay, we can reproduce this. But every game is slightly different. Whether it be the time of kickoff, travelling away, what ground you're playing at, etc. So, you look at the best example is Everton. You're looking kind of where has that performance been, for a long time. And don't get me wrong, I know Frank has, kind of changed up the style that was highlighted in Monday Night Football. But Everton are capable of going and not putting in another good performance. Likewise, Burnley, Leeds, of course, look, they're playing Manchester City, which is always difficult. But it's so difficult to say you can continue this run of form, but it just doesn't work like that. And you have to, it's the oldest and worst cliche in football. They have to take one game at a time. Now Everton have the game in hand. They can sort that out and kind of get a result. Then the pressure will start to crank on the other teams. Now it's better to be going into your next game in good form, but it really does kind of go out the window. You have to take each game on its merit, and you have to go up against your opponent. You have to give it everything.
What does a performance like that actually do to the mindset of Everton, where everybody's written you off? It feels like the situation is desperate, and then all of a sudden something happens. You get a bit of a spark. You get that performance. The fans, I think it's really important. Like watching Seamus Coleman speak afterwards about his entire career there at Goodison Park and rarely experiencing an occasion like that. It's so weird. But when crisis happens, the community comes together, and if they dig it out from here, who knows what will happen. But what does something like that do to a dressing room? Does it supercharge everybody, or because you obviously, and the cliche is true about game to game, does it do nothing in some ways either?
I think it does a lot. it's like any walk of life. Like you look at it now, obviously it's Tuesday morning, whatever. If you have a good weekend, you have a nice time or whatever job you're in, you go in Monday morning, you're kind of refreshed and you're looking forward to the week. When you're in a slump, it's difficult to come out of that. Certainly, that's no different to professional football. You look at Everton, when they've had tough results, going into training on a Monday morning, trying to prepare for a game, everyone's a little bit flat. You're thinking, oh, are we ever going to be able to turn this around? There's moaning, there's groaning, But when you get a win like that, the lift, like as you said there when Sheahan spoke after, the fans are going home happy. They're probably hanging around after to, the parents who brought their kids to meet players. There's that little bit of a buzz, there's that bit of a lift. And then the players come into training, they start the next week looking forward to the next game where you're just on it and you're happy to be there. You're not looking around going, oh my God, we could be relegated. This is going to be the end of the world or whatever. There's that buzz and a kick, it can kickstart you. Now, Everton have to go and do that again in the next game. They have to kick on again and, reproduce a performance like that and get a result. Like even watching Chelsea the other day, I never felt like it was one of those games, we as former professionals, you look back and you always have those moments. I often highlight, the Wales game when we played away with Ireland. I never felt like Wales were going to score. I even looking at that the other day, I know Pickford had, incredible save he made. I just felt like this is Everton's game to win. They're going to win it. Everything was going their way. You seen Damari Gray making tackles and blocks, which you wouldn't really associate with, with your flair players. It was just one of those games where everything was kind of going for them and they were fighting tooth and nail, but they kind of deserved to win it. So that when you can get a win like that over the line against one of the top clubs, it just breeds confidence into the group. Now they have to build on that and go into the next game and reproduce another performance to get another result.
In terms of the title race then, for Liverpool, all of these games are potential banana skins at this point. Some of them are going to be easier and more routine than others. On the face of it, it looked like perhaps at the weekend was going to be one of those banana skins. But again, they managed to make it relatively routine.
Yeah, the first half was very comfortable. Obviously, getting the goal. It looked, fully in control. They just kept the ball. They moved it well. But the start of the second half, I was biting my nails because Liverpool were making so many unforced errors. They weren't keeping possession. They were just inviting Newcastle back into the game. And of course, look, Newcastle, they've been fantastic since, Eddie Howe's turned the corner. You look at the success they've had. What are they up to now? 9th in the table. So then Newcastle started to huff and puff. And, there was moments when you did worry and you were just saying, please, can Liverpool just get the second goal to put this game to bed? But, Jurgen obviously made 5 changes, which shows you what he thinks of, the Champions League, the second tie, which is obviously tonight. He did use a squad, which was very interesting. You are 2-0 up, but he did make 5 changes. But Liverpool got the job done, albeit it wasn't as comfortable in the second half. But, it's 3 points and they just this machine keeps going.
James Milner obviously made a bit of a rare start at the age of 36, played really well. Jurgen Klopp spoke about his importance after the game. Like, you obviously speak to Jordan Henderson quite a bit. Have you ever got a sense of how important Milner is, even though, Henderson is captain and Van Dijk obviously is a massive leader in that dressing room? But I presume Milner, just, I guess, given the experience that he has, is as important than the lads when it comes to leading that dressing room.
Yeah, well, look, I don't want to bring them into it, but United are a great example. You look at the United changing room, you kind of look at the leaders they have in there, and then you compare that to Liverpool. And, like, obviously, as you said there, right, Jordan's captain, James is vice captain, but then you've got Scottish captain, left back, you've got the Dutch captain, centre back, Matip is captain. Okay, Trent, he's not a bad lad, he's a good lad, works hard. Like, I think then you obviously go to the front line, like Salah's the Egyptian captain, Mane's the Senegalese captain. They just have captains everywhere, and it's kind of a changing room that has been built over time with these leaders. But that is, Jordan and James have been, pivotal to that. They are the two that kind of lead the group. You always look at, even when Adam Lallana left, if you remember, Jurgen spoke about how Adam, James and Jordan had kind of ran everything. They had looked after everyone and whatever. They were huge they are huge characters in that group. And James is no doubt, like, look, it'll be frustrating for him. He's probably, a lad who wants to play every game. He's incredibly fit. He's still, you've seen the performance against Newcastle. He's still well capable of doing a job in midfield in the Premier League. But I think himself and Jordan have this nice dynamic where, they do kind of run the changing room, but then again, it's probably not a difficult changing room to run because there's so many top professionals who are captains with their international teams that there's this beautiful, harmony between the group that they don't let standards slip. I've been fortunate enough to watch training a few times, and you just see them all. They're just on top of one another. Like, training's always at such a high level, and that's why they're able to, over these past few years, go to toe-to-toe with Manchester City. And that's testament to the type of lads there.
What do you expect from the game tonight then?
Oh, I don't know. I was very disappointed with Villarreal, obviously happy from a Liverpool perspective. They kind of sat in. I think they kind of tried to frustrate Liverpool and try and nick, goal on the counter-attack. They never kind of got a grip to the game. Obviously now at home, the old yellow submarine, they call it, the fans are going to be out. They're going to have to go and, try and take Liverpool on. I can't see them doing it in the opening 20 minutes. I can see them probably huffing and puffing and late on the first half, and then second half they're going to have to go for it. That should suit Liverpool, certainly in the way they play. They're more than comfortable, if a team sits in, keeping the ball, knocking it around. But if a team steps onto Liverpool with the front three, I expect Salah to come straight back in tonight. You probably play Mane and Diaz. With those front three, the pace they have, the precision, everything, it's just goals there for them. So if Villarreal do come after Liverpool, I can see them being picked off. But Liverpool have obviously been able to keep a number of clean sheets across, the Premier League and the Champions League. So it's going to be one of those games. I think that, it's going to be a bit nervy, but I do feel Liverpool will score. And I think after the first leg, I think they have that cushion of the two goal lead. So I think they'll be fine.
The one thing is that Champions League semi-finals, there's always a little bit of something happens. Like, if you're Villarreal, you want to be agents of chaos, particularly, maybe not in the first 20 minutes, but straight away after that. So, like, and with no away goals, I don't really buy into the whole 2-0 leads, one of the worst leads in football. But, like, I expect something to happen from Villarreal. I expect them to try something tonight.
Yeah, they will. You've no doubt that Unai Emery has a game plan. You could probably see them sitting in and then trying to catch Liverpool with the high line, something along those lines where they're switching balls, say from the right side, trying to catch out Trent, who's further forward, or likewise the opposite side, try and get in down the sides of them. It'll be interesting to see. I imagine Kanate will probably start with Van Dijk. Then they've got to do something like that, because if they try and go toe-to-toe passing, we've seen in the first leg, Liverpool's pressing. They just get after players. They're able to win the ball back high up. I saw something really interesting recently with Ragnick speaking about Liverpool's front three, which at the time would have been Mane, Firmino and Salah. And he said Jurgen's actually turned them into ball-winning forward players. What he means by that is they're actually tackling players. It's not just a case of high pressing where you're forcing your opponent into an error. They're actually tackling players, and it is true that Jurgen has turned them into. If you look at the amount of tackles that Mane, Diaz, Salah do, they win the ball in those high positions. And if Villarreal start to be comfortable and try and build up and play out from the back, then they will get caught, because these fellas are just incredible at what they do, and it's just a well-oiled machine that just keeps going. So I expect Liverpool to come through it, but Villarreal they're gonna make it difficult. They're no mugs. They obviously had great results over Bayern Munich and Juventus and that.
The title race then, obviously, a little bit of pressure on Man City, and then the pressure's over really, really quickly, because they are just finding their groove at the moment and finding things pretty easy. Like, this is the concern, I suspect, if you're a Liverpool fan, is that you can't really see a case to be made for anybody to stop City on the league front.
No. I think I was on a week or two ago, and I got asked the same question. I just can't see either team losing the Premier League. That's the truth. Like, I know Liverpool have got Spurs coming up, which would be seen as probably the most difficult of both sets of fixtures. I fully expect Liverpool to come through that, but like City, they just turn out results. They're just unstoppable. Like I said, Liverpool are a well-oiled machine. So are Man City. You look at the resurgence of Jesus, the amount of goals he scored in the last few weeks, going back to, when he came back into the team against Liverpool. They just have incredible squads. And, City, it's kind of like, oh, you're going against Leeds, who they don't. I know they beat them 7-0 earlier on this season. They didn't have a good record against Leeds. They'd lost twice and drawn twice in the last, 4 before the 7-0 victory. So it's kind of one of them you're wondering, oh, will it be a tough game? And then City just go out and pull them apart. And I see Manchester City, and I just feel that both teams will end up winning the remaining fixtures. And unfortunately, Liverpool will come up short.
If you're Pep, are you doing everything to try and appease Gabriel Jesus to make sure he stays at the club, or at least don't sell him to a Premier League rival?
It's an interesting one, because the timing of it was kind of weird, and then Jesus has kind of come back in and he's been in fantastic form. I think Pep has always kind of had a question mark over him as that number 9. It kind of looked at early days that he was the natural progression to Aguero, but he simply doesn't score enough goals to be in Aguero's category. I know he scored a lot recently, but he started deploying him off wings in different games. Obviously there's the link with Arsenal. I think he'd be a good signing for Arsenal. Obviously, then there's the relationship between Pep and Arteta that he might, look after his own mate. I think kind of there's obviously been the talk of Haaland. Is he coming? Who knows? But I think with Jesus, his race is ran. I really do. I don't think he'll see himself as starting week in, week out, albeit he's come in for the last few games, but he knows deep down that start the next season, whether City get Haaland or not, he's not going to turn out 40 45 games this or next season. So I feel he'll probably want to go and be someone's number 9, playing week in, week out, and maybe Arsenal is the best solution for him.
Just one of the other things from the Manchester City game before we let you go, John Giles was on last Thursday night chatting about Rodri and saying that he'd like to see him create a few more goals or be involved in the goals a little bit more, and then sure enough, after 13 minutes on Saturday he scores a goal. It's an interesting one, David, because I guess Giles' perspective on it would be that defensive midfielders, there should be no problem with them contributing to the attack. They should be contributing to the attack, but it feels maybe the modern defensive midfielder, that's not really their role at all. Like, where is the truth in all that?
I fully understand where John is coming from. Certainly in terms of Rodri and the team he plays in, style of play they have. But I often wonder, why has Pep got him as the 6? Why has Pep used him in that role, and what is his role in that team? Of course, you could highlight probably he should get more assists, certainly because City pin teams in. But I think he's just there to take them over. I think he's there. Rodri's role in the team, if you look at him, he's very composed. He's very, comfortable on the ball. He almost reminds me of, if you remember Pep's team back in the 2010 era, he's there, Busquets. And obviously Busquets was labelled the same thing, doesn't have enough assists, doesn't have enough goals. But I think Pep doesn't care about him scoring or assisting. I think it's more about his role within the team, that he has to be the one who's always available for the ball, who can sustain attacks, who can switch play, who can keep things going. And if, the opposition do win the ball in the counter-attack, Rodri's there to break it up. I understand where he's coming from, that you want your midfielders to score more goals and assists. Obviously, I heard there just before I joined about Declan Rice, that's something that's been labelled at him. Could he score more goals and, assist more? But I look at it that Pep is probably looking, I'm going, you're completely fine in what you're doing. I'm very happy with you. You don't need more goals. You don't need more assists. Keep doing what you're doing. And look, they've been so successful. Of course, I know they haven't won the Champions League, but certainly in terms of their domestic cups, the Premier Leagues, they've been. So you can cut it up two ways. Like, should the 6 be scoring more goals, assisting more? Of course, yeah, you'd like that, but inevitably it comes down to what the manager wants, and the manager is happy with them because he picks them week in, week out.